What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and I'm here with
Gershwan.
And today we're back to answer questions that you guys have left us down in the comments in previous For the Greater WAAAGH, just in case you guys didn't know where to put questions at. And I'm here with
Gershwan.
Did you say that already?
I think so, yeah.
Welcome to For the Greater.
This is a video series where we answer the questions left by you, the viewer. If you have a question for us, comment down below. Make sure to put question in front of your question because we get to those questions first, which is what So Eddie did. He asks, did any other race try to create warrior equivalents to the Primarchs?
Was it the three-legged race?
Yeah. So out of all the other major factions, there hasn't been like a similar type of situation, but what has happened is like for the Eldar, the Primarch equivalent would be the Phoenix Lords.
Right.
So they have those guys, and they're supposed to be legendary, mythical, and like they only come out every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think there's a playable thing on the tabletop, right?
No.
No.
Best thing you could do is a Phoenix Lord, which is essentially like a mini version of that.
Yeah, the big lords.
Mm-hmm.
And then when the next one would be like with orcs don't really have that. The closest thing they'll have is like the prophet and like named characters, but those aren't really the same.
No.
So the orcs did not have it. Tyranids also didn't really have it. The closest thing is the Space Marines were consumed, and then the Hive Guard came out.
Mm-hmm. I guess you could kind of say maybe the named characters like Old One-Eye, Swarm Lord, because they can't really, they can die, but they always come back because the hive mind just reuses that information and makes them stronger.
Right, yeah.
So like if somebody killed them with plasma, they come back with a stronger chitinous shield or something like that.
Yep. And then the Necrons have the Overlords, which are equivalent just because they have powers that go beyond like a regular, what is it called, Chapter Master.
Mm-hmm. Like there's been fights where Necrons curb stomp named characters. But because they're named characters, there's some plot armory way that they get away with it.
But in reality, like, there's no way Trazen the Infinite could have not killed this guy.
Right, like this dude, like if you try to shoot or do anything to Trazian, dude can like phase through reality.
Yeah.
Like what are you gonna do then?
Phase through the bullet coming at him.
Yeah. Before we get into the other races, I do want to touch base on the Marnias Calgar comic. Have you heard about that?
Mm-mm.
So there's a panel or a whole storyline where a Lord of Skulls, the Khorne demon engine thing, was killed by Calgar by him just literally ripping off his head.
Oh. I mean, it is just a demon, and like
beforehand, this thing took out an entire Necron tomb world.
Oh. Well, yeah, that's the problem with like named characters, that sometimes it just does create plot armor. I mean, it could have been a lesser tomb world, I guess. Like a weak one.
It's like there's no way this Lord of Skulls could have done that to a Necron tomb world. And there's no way Calgar could have done it to this guy that easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's cool, right?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like that with like the way these fights go, these what if scenarios. It all depends on plot, really.
Story, yeah.
Story, where the writer wants things to go. When you get to the Tau, there's no real Primarch equivalents because you've got like their commanders, Shadow Sun, Shaso Kais, and Farsight, which are the three best and most well-known commanders, but they're like on the same level as Chapter Masters.
Yep. And those are the major factions, pretty much.
Dark Eldar? They don't really have anything.
They have the Dark Muses, but the only Dark Muse that is alive, and he's not really a Dark Muse, is what's his name? Vect.
Asubel?
Yeah. So, there's that.
Yeah. It's really hard, because, like, literally Primarchs are, like, on a whole different level. It just goes to show you how badass they were, and are.
Yep. Next question comes from MockMotion07. Why can't Space Marine drop pods instead be used to land on top of enemies like an orbital bombardment?
They should, right?
I mean, sometimes they do. I mean, like if it's going into a swarm of Tyranids, it's going to land in the swarm, in the thick of fighting, and then the hatches are going to crush more Tyranids as they come down, stuff like that. So.
And then sometimes the drop pod itself has like storm bolters in it, or a missile pod, or it could be rigged to blow up.
And I'm pretty sure that Like, you would want to sacrifice the Space Marines inside.
Yeah, right.
In an orbital bombardment like that. So, yeah.
This one's by Selin Hernandez. What is the process for an adult to become a Space Marine? So the thing for Space Marines is that, yeah, an adult goes through the exact same process as any teen or neophyte preteen would go through, but the success rate is almost 0.
Yep. So exact same thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, are you really going to waste all this time and resources on adults to try to become Space Marines when it's not even worth it?
And you got to remember, it takes up to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting like a used, like you're putting a really good engine on a really old car that is rusted up and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now sometimes you do get the anomaly, like Luther for the Dark Angels.
And Corferon.
Yeah. But there's always a little bit of chaos in that.
Yeah. This next question comes from Tom Walls. It says, the Imperium use suicide bombers? I'm pretty sure the Imperial Guard at some point has gotten so desperate that they have to. There is no specific unit for it or anything like that. No. That I can think of.
Wilhelm Woodenson. What is an entirely new unit type that you'd like to see come to the lore and tabletop? I've said it time and time again. Aquatic vehicles are just more aquatic-like things. I guess you could say, oh, it's the same thing as like naval warfare in space. You're right. It's just one's underwater, one's in space, but
yeah,
just a little bit more on that.
I would want, like, for the orcs, because I'm an orc player, like more something with like the teleporter.
I think so, the Teletubbies.
The Teletubbies, yeah, no, like a teleporter actual thing, and I think it was a thing in 5th edition. I don't know what happened to it.
It teleported out of here.
It did. Next question.
Shovi. If the suits that the Astartes and the Primarchs wear are powered armor, then why does it matter how muscly the guy inside is? Because isn't power armor moving pretty much by itself, with only the input being on where to go from the guy inside? So aren't they just armor with... So why aren't they moving the armor with their muscles?
Space Marines are moving their armor with their muscles.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. Like, if you get Space Marine armor on a regular human, on top of the fact that they don't have the black carapace, so they don't interface with that armor, it's just too heavy for them. It would crush them.
Right. Think of Iron Man. When like his armor powers down, Tony Stark can't move the armor. He's stuck in that position.
Yeah.
So think about it like that.
Yeah. For a human, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Next question comes from Erok9. Why do Chaos Gods of Virtue? Why no Chaos God of Virtue?
Because it's a grim, dark universe where there is only war, and the virtuous don't wage war.
And I think like that stems back to like a core idea that like negative virtue or negative feelings manifest before positive.
Mm-hmm.
It's easier to be angry before being accepting. You need to be angry first, then realize, and then say, oh, okay, never mind.
But there are positive emotions out there, like pleasure, and that's feeding into Slanesh.
Yep. Because then that leads, or like even honor. Honor feeds into Khorne.
Mm-hmm.
So there's positives, and the Emperor is supposed to fulfill the super positive one.
Mm-hmm.
The or the god of the, not the Chaos God of Order, but the Chaos God of Light.
Lupe Fiasco.
Yeah.
This one is by Sane Gur. Why aren't Chaos Space Marines using more advanced alien technology? I mean, they're not bound by Imperial rules, so why don't they just corrupt, say, Tau, Necron, weapons, etc.?
The Death Watch does that.
You're right. Well, they do it, but they have to go, like, indirectly, like saying, oh, I'm using a Necron phase sword. I mean, really old, ancient human civilization that nobody ever knows about technology.
And that's because the Adeptus Astartes get checked by the Adeptus Mechanicus, and the Adeptus Mechanicus upholds the rules that the Emperor outlined in the Treaty of Mars, which says you can't use xenotechnology.
Right.
So, like, even though they're autonomous, they still get checked up on
right.
to collect tithes for the gene seed and to make sure that there isn't anything crazy like them using Tau technology.
Because if you're using technology of Xenos, that's heresy, and you are going to die. Yeah. Now, why Chaos don't outright do this? You tell me, man.
Well, I mean, Chaos don't do it because why would a tentacled arm be better than a robotic arm that requires maintenance when a tentacle arm is just a tentacle arm?
Right, but they just don't use a tentacle arm. Go for the technology that the Necrons use. De-atomize instead of shoot a bolter at it.
Well, but like the bolter is not just a regular bolter; it's like a chaotic bolter.
Right.
So it's like it's one of those things where it's like, do you want to be bound to the realities of this world, or do you want the powers of the Ethereum or the Immaterium?
But then it's like, why not just get Tau or Necron technology and chaosify it?
Oh, because then it just ends up being the same thing, right?
Yeah, I guess pretty much.
It's just a chaos weapon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is what demon engines are, because I was reading up the lore on demon engines, and like the Imperium has a lot of demon engines, but like they have corrupted other things too. They've corrupted Necron technology and all that kind of stuff, but then it always just ends up being the same thing. Mm-hmm. A Defiler. What did you say? The dude that...
Oh, Lord of Skulls.
Yeah, it ends up being all the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Next question.
That's why we need a Dark Hereticus chapter faction.
That would be cool, yeah.
But no, they don't want to spoil us. This one's by Reynil Calderon. Can dead Space Marines be revived?
Yeah, technically that's what the Dreadnought is.
And Primaris.
Oh, yeah.
You have to die in order to become a Primaris.
Yep.
This one's by Alexander Zapata. He says, all jokes aside, besides the viscera, the belly has the largest concentration of lymph nodes. So yes, you guys are not wrong about that.
I don't even remember what we said.
Something about pregnant orcs, pregnant sisters of battle.
Yeah, right on.
Sure.
We were right.
Lymph nodes.
Woohoo.
Lord Grey Knight. The cloning of humans. Is this acceptable in the Imperium or heresy?
Straight up heresy. Mm-hmm. One of the contracts that the Emperor put out was like, no clones at all.
Right.
Because that leads to bad stuff. And it's rumored that the Death Corps of Krieg are doing it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. Besides having like kid soldiers, they're cloning.
Yeah. They're clone kid soldiers.
This one is by Metro Ranger. Are there any lesser known gods or greater demons who fight for humanity? No.
Well, I mean, I guess it's difficult to say though, because like nothing in the lore, but that's not to say that you can't create one. Like if let's say you had a colony that existed on a night world, and a greater demon somehow became part of that world, and they were fighting for that world just so that that world could become corrupted. Mm-hmm. Then in that situation, I guess it's fighting for that planet and it's fighting for humanity, but not the Imperium.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to twist it that way.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that GW leaves kind of open-ended to allow a lot of interpretation for their works.
Right. Yep.
This one's by Wilhelm Woodenson again. What are some ways that elite armies could be more competitive and usable compared to regular or horde armies? So I play a lot of elite armies and I lose a lot because of that. When you have hordes, you have more bodies, you have more wounds that you have to do. So because of that, like it's going to take longer for elite armies to take out a horde army. Also, more bodies equals more people to take objectives, more ways to spread and control the field. So,
and the way GW is trying to correct that and to make elite armies less vulnerable, I've noticed is that a lot of rules are coming out where if I have a gun that does 6 damage or D6 damage, it reduces it by a lot. Like either it reduces it to 1 or reduces it by like half.
Yeah.
And I've seen that a lot, and that's annoying, especially because like I'm an orc player. The strongest thing we have is 3 wounds sometimes. But it's like then it gets reduced to 1. then it's just like, okay, yeah, then it's going to take forever for me to kill this freaking Primaris Marine that has 3 wounds.
Right.
Or 2 wounds.
And that's the trend that I've been seeing with a lot of elite armies. They're getting more wounds, they're getting higher toughness, they're becoming more durable with like feel no pain and invuln saves. And there's a lot of shenanigans around that. And that's clearly the way that the Dark Angels have been fighting that with the Deathwing. Because you have an Apothecary that you could put in there for feel no pain. You have like the Grim Resolve abilities that they can't be wounded on anything lower than a 4+. So they're combating this by making elite armies harder to kill.
It's annoying for non-Space Marine players.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Space Marines get everything.
They do.
Yeah. Next question is by Timothy Armstrong. Who are the Talons of the Emperor, and why does their lore make them sound overpowered?
Who are the Talons of the Emperor?
Aren't those the Custodes? Like a small force of Custodes?
Yeah.
And they're overpowered because they are.
Yeah.
They're the pinnacle of like fighting machine.
Mm-hmm.
They're autonomous. They're as strong as like no, they're not as strong as a Primarch, but they're close.
Yep.
I mean, they're protecting the freaking Emperor, so you know they mean business.
Yeah. See?
This one's by Don Krill. Will the Eldar and the Tau ever start working together against the xenophobic humans, the nasty chaos, and other Xenos? Or are they just as hostile to each other as any other faction?
I have a theory that the Eldar created the Tau just because 40K tends to be like cyclical in nature, where like the old ones who were psychically powerful created a psychically powerful entity that ended up backfiring. So now I think the psychically powerful Eldar are going to try to create a non-psychically powerful warrior race, which is the Tau Empire, which ends up backfiring somehow. But no, all Eldar are really cocky. So they probably wouldn't want to try to help the...
No, especially seeing them as like... They're like toddlers and infants compared to the Eldar.
Yeah, and they probably think it's disgusting that they're unifying other races too. Mm-hmm. Instead of just subjugating them or wiping them out completely.
Right. Michael Evans. Hi, guys. Given that the Grey Knights tend to execute Imperial Guardsmen that are unlucky enough to meet demons... What will be the fate of the few Mordians left after their demonic invasion of their homeworld?
Hi. It depends on when the story is being told.
Right.
If it's before before Gilliman,
then yeah, they're...
Yeah. But if they're not, then I think most like the Grey Knights are not killing Imperial citizens or Imperial Guardsmen anymore. I think.
No, ever since they allied with the Great Crusade, not the Great Crusade. What are they calling it now?
The Indomitus
Crusade. Yeah. It's like they become more out in the open. They're allying with more Space Marine chapters, so their secrecy isn't 100% there. But a Space Marine is still considered like a myth to a regular human.
Right.
So the chances that a regular human knows about a Grey Knight is pretty much 0.
Right. Yep. And then last question. You got one?
Yeah. This one is by Frank's World. Are Space Marines super funny outside of combat?
No.
Nah.
Think of like a super religious person. That's the level of...
It's funny by how religious they are.
But it's not funny to you because they would look at you like you're fucking wrong. Right. Yeah, or anybody that adheres to a specific thing, because I've experienced that in Magic the Gathering, where like sometimes if you're a novice in Magic the Gathering against like an expert who like lives and breathes a Magic the Gathering, they are douches. They are complete fucking assholes.
It's like, oh, you're playing that white weenie deck. Oh, you should have been playing this deck. Oh, you played this card wrong. Oh, you should have countered my instant with that spell instead of doing this spell. Oh, you're ordering Burger King? Only a person who eats white or plays white weenie decks eats Burger King.
Exactly.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, except for the Space Marine. It's like, oh, you're using a las gun? I use a bolter that will kill you if you pull the trigger.
Right. You're like a flashlight to me.
Yeah. And then he gives it and just... Oh, flashlight. I thought you said flashlight.
I wish.
an Imperial Guardsman flashlight.
Mm-hmm.
Stay tuned. Product line coming.
But yeah,
Those are the questions for today. Gershwan.
Sound Alchemist. Flashlights.
Always used to put my freedom first.